YouTube is going on. Today we are back with another Genshin Impact video. Genshin Impact. Today I'm going over all of the standard bearer characters and who I believe you should be choosing and what would possibly be the best fit for your account. Here's the thing about this. There is no best standard banner character in the game. There are ones that are much stronger and ones that you should, I believe, 100% stay away from unless you really want to do some weird niche stuff. As you can see, these are all the standard banner characters currently. Dehya, Keqing, Mona, QiQi, Jean, Tighnari, DIluc. I'm going to break all of them down, obviously, but I want to give you a disclaimer. I do believe I've been seeing a lot of people say this, and, well, you should roll for Dehya, let's say, for example, because eventually at some point, if you wind up getting Dehya C2, then she'll be really good and she gets a big power upgrade, or if you go for C6 QiQi, she could revive a teammate or something. Here's the God's honest truth. You have no way of focusing these characters. If I personally... will not, if you have all of these C0 and you say, or you don't have any of them at all, say, listen, who should I go for? What should I be looking for? I'm not going to tell you roll Tighnari because Tighnari actually gets really good at C6 because the odds of you getting a C6 Tighnari from losing 50-50s are slim to none. Is it possible? Of course. But you have a 1/7 chance of getting Tighnari when you lose a 50-50, right? So I think that's a little silly. And I'm not going to tell you again, oh, for a future... go for this in case you lose to Tighnari, then eventually you can build this character up. It's not bad advice, but I don't think it's good advice personally. I think it's very mid advice, and I don't think that's the best way to go with your account and the way to really tackle these characters. So let's get into the utilities of these characters. Let's break this down. I'm gonna tell you who I'm going for personally, and let me give you the reason. So let's start off with Dehya. Dehya is a Pyro Claymore unit, and they're actually not bad. There was a meme going on in the community for a long time that Dehya was horrendous. I contributed to that because for a long time she really wasn't that great, but over time her use has honestly gotten higher. She is not a Pyro DPS. You are not going to be out DPSing characters like Arlecchino, Linny, even Shang Lang, Hu Tao. Dehya's role is not to be a DPS. Dehya's role is to be an off-field sub-DPS. So breaking down her kit and exactly what she does and what she excels with. So Dehya's skill is where she really excels, and this is going to be where, honestly, most of her kit is going to be used. What happens with Dehya's skill is you throw down this little thing, I'll show you in a moment. You throw down like a little circle, and there's actually going to be another circle on the floor, and there's an AoE, pretty much her effectiveness of her skill. So if you go outside of that circle, you won't get the effectiveness of this. So when she throws down this skill, pretty much she's going to be doing a coordinated attack every 2.5 seconds. That is going to be giving AoE pyro damage. But the real great thing about this skill is due to the fact that when you are in this skill, Dehya is actually going to be giving you interruption resistance. And whenever you get hit with an on-field character, Dehya is actually going to be taking a portion of that health and delivering it to herself. So she's going to pretty much be taking a portion of the attacks that you're getting from your on-fielder. You really want to throw down Dehya's skill, swap to whoever else you want to do an on-field with them, and then you can get as much use of her out of her as possible. So I'm making up something real quick. This isn't obviously an optimal team, but now I would go with Keqing. And so if I were to get hit here, like I'm getting hit right now, I did not get knocked by that hilly chair. That's a perfect example. So my interruption resistance is higher, and Dehya is taking that health. See, when I got hit by that, I took damage. So her damage and resistance is pretty good. The reason why Dehya is really great is due to the fact, again, not knocked back, by the way. Not knocked back. You would easily get knocked back from that, as you saw in a moment ago. So the reason why Dehya is so good is due to the fact that genuinely she's now actually able to fit into a lot of different team comps. Burning seems to be a direction in which the game is going for, and they're actually trying to make the burning reaction better with Dendro, like characters like Emily or the new character Kenichi seems like he's going to be a burning reaction character. But she works very well if you're using bow characters. You know, if you're running someone like Linny, who really needs time to charge attack and you need that defense, you could throw Dehya's down and you're getting that extra coordinated attack every 2.5 seconds. You know, so she works great with mono pyro teams, and really the Dendro stuff is pretty solid. I'm not gonna lie to you, she is not bad. I'm actually going to be personally going for Dehya. I don't have Dehya on my account, and I want to have fun with her. You know, her design is just top tier. Her burst is really nothing too crazy. You just kind of run around and you hit people, and you have complete interruption resistance on her burst. You will still take damage, and if you jump during her burst, it actually ends it though. But so you don't really use the burst with her as much depending on the situation, but you know, the main thing is her skill. So her pull value is up there. Her pull value for me is going to be a yes, simply because of the fact that, again, she could work with Dendro, which is broken. She could work with mono pyro teams, and just overall, her kit is really not horrendous, and they're releasing tons of characters that are synergizing with her pretty well, so it's not a bad pull. Constellations, obviously, she is going to get better with Constellations. She gets much more value. C1 is very good. C2 is very good. You know, any character that you get, like at C6, they're going to be great. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. Any 5-star unit is going to still be very good at C6. So, I'm not telling you to get a character at C0 because eventually one day you get to C6. I think that is silly. Her C0 value is not that great in terms of DPS, but sub DPS potential, it is still solid and worth it. Next, we're going Keqing. Keqing is the next one on this list. Keqing is not bad. C0 Keqing is not bad, but there are a few things with her that makes her a little bit more niche, and her pull value is a little bit of a, she's still a good unit, but it depends on what you're running. So how does she work? She pretty much dashes around and teleports. She has like this very anime skill where if you drop it down, you could zoom back into there and you do electro damage, you do AoE electro damage. And after you do this, you actually get infused attacks with her. So for example, if I don't die, let me just heal with Jean real quick. Sidebar, Jean is a healer, but so I'm stuck. Step bro, help. So I can hold this down, I dash back to it, and then now my normals are going to be electro infused for a certain amount of time. And yeah, and then her burst is just pretty much electro damage. She is really, really good for Dendro. She's very, very good for aggravate reactions. She's not going to be, again, replacing like someone like Raiden. This account doesn't have Raiden, but you're using like Raiden as your main DPS. Their Clarin is still very good, and actually Clarin is genuinely better than Keqing. You know, so she is not the best in slot. Realistically, sidebar, none of these standards are going to be a best in slot for any of the teams that they are providing, but they're still not horrendous options. The thing with her, though, with Aggravate, is you really need to pair her with Fischl. If you don't pair her with Fischl, you're really not going to be proccing Aggravate as much. So her team comps are a little bit more on the limited side, unfortunately. You know, especially when you get Fischl at C6. Says extends the duration of Oz presence on field by 2 seconds. Additionally, Oz performs coordinated attacks with your active character when present, dealing 30% of Fischl's attack damage as electro damage. So Fischl is going to be better, her pretty much best in slot. If you are running Aggravate, you need Fischl. If you don't have Fischl, it's really not going to be that good. So just keep in mind, if you're doing that, you have Fischl. Even at Fischl C0, it's still good. Like, it's still not bad, but Fischl C6 is going to help a lot in this situation. So overall, she's not bad. There's better electro characters. Again, there's better characters in all these categories, realistically. So pull value is good if you have Fischl and if you have Nihita and you are doing Aggravate. If you don't plan on going Aggravate, really not worth your time. If you like the design, you like the way she plays, go for it. But yeah, without Aggravate, whatever. Next is Mona. Okay, some of these characters are going to be shorter than the others, particularly Mona and QiQi. I'm not going to lie to you. Mona has little to no value despite what people are going to tell you. In my personal opinion, I will show you what Mona does. Mona's skill is just supposed to apply hydro application and hydro damage to nearby enemies, and it's supposed to taunt them. It doesn't really work. Mona is, and as I'm loading, Mona is unfortunately just very mid. Her burst is supposed to be really good. Her burst buffs damage, but realistically, there is someone better like Farina, where Farina just does everything Mona does, but 10 times better, to the point where it is pretty much not needed. A lot of people use Mona to take screenshot damage numbers, and like you see these big PP damage numbers, like, well, why is Mona in the team? This allows them to do big damage numbers on like lower level domains. But when you're in these high intensity situations, or like you're in the abyss or whatever, you're not really using Mona. So her hydro application, you know, stun this one homie, he's out. 4 or 5 attacks, really not nothing too big. And then this is going to allow you to get bonus damage with whatever you're using. And yeah, I mean, obviously that's a little hilly, that's gonna die no matter what, but really nothing too crazy here. That's a sneak peek of DIluc's burst. But I'm gonna be honest with you. Again, if you want to get her because she has like thick thighs, and thick thighs saves lives, by all means. But the reason why her and QiQi are going to be very short in this list is because they're really just not needed, and they don't really have a place in the meta that way other units do. So I don't think she is worth your pull. I think if you're picking her, it's kind of stinky. It's kind of stinky, you know? I'm not going to lie to you. So people might be upset by that, but that is okay. I'm trying to give you my honest opinion on where I think these people are ranking. The next is going to be QiQi. QiQi is not needed, man. I'm going to be honest with you. QiQi is a healer. Her skill allows you to pretty much heal people every time you do normal attacks or charge attacks with her. But there are just a million other healers in the game. When you get to C6, she can revive someone, I believe. So it says, using Adeptus Art of Preserver of Fortune revives all fallen party members nearby and regenerates 50% of the HP. This effect can only recur every 15 minutes. So that's cool, but that requires you, A, to lose 7 50/50s, or I guess 6 technically if you're picking QiQi. B, you have to use QiQi. She's just not good. She's just genuinely not good. Her burst is just cryo damage. It's just cryo damage. Cryo in itself is already in a bad state in this game, but there are better cryo characters. There's Riosli, who has absolutely the cake of a god. You know, there is Ayaka. I mean, there are just other cryo units that there's no need, and there's other healers. Let's move on to the next healer on the list, Jean. Jean is a very, very solid pick, right? With Jean, her skill pretty much just gives you a hiya, like you could just blow enemies away. So do I have Jean on? Like, for example, if I go up to this homie, he has a pyro on him, I can, you know, swirl, which is the whole thing with anima. You swirl elements, that way you get a bigger buff. And if he was a smaller opponent, I could actually pick him up and lift him, but you don't really need that. But I'll show you real quick. It is kind of fun to yeet enemies around so they can, and then yeah, they just die. So, you know, Jean is cool, but Jean's real main focus comes from the fact that she gives instantaneous healing. So for example, if I'm going to get her burst up right now, I'm going to take some damage real quick. So that way you could just see. Great AI, by the way. Great AI design. Yep. No, just one hit. That's all I need. Yeah, no, just one hit was all good. That's cool. Why do I have a shield? I don't even know I have a shield. Okay. I think he might have given me crystallized. Okay. Are you going to hit me? Game sucks. This game sucks. There we go. Okay. All right. There we go. Now we're getting some action. Now I'm getting my head beat. a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Jean winds up healing you. Automatically heals you and continuously heals you. And so the reason why this is good is there's a few things. Jean can work perfectly with Benny. If you put Benny's burst down, Benny gives you that AoE healing and a big damage buff. But if you heal on top of Benny's burst, it does this sunfire thing where she consistently swirls fire. The whole thing about swirls, and I've dropped a video on pretty much how swirls work, is that when you swirl a specific element, that element is you're now going to get enhanced damage. So for example, with Benny, you'd be swirling pyro, you're going to be getting more enhanced pyro damage. So not only could you do something pretty cool with the sunfire thing, it's a little bit more niche, but Farina is an Jean is an amazing spot for Farina. Farina is one of the best characters in the game. I have a guide out on her if you need more information, but pretty much what happens with Farina is when you do her ultimate, you need to get as much healing as possible to stack fanfare to do more damage. The instantaneous healing allows you to max out Farina's fanfare right off rip. So if you see Farina, or if you have Farina and you don't have Nuvolette, and you don't really have a universal healer like that, because Benny, QiQi, they're not really good for that universal healing the way Jean is. Jean is a very solid pull. You cannot go wrong with running Jean. So Sunfire is a little bit more niche. It still has value, but the real reason why you would go for her is if you were using Farina. If you're not using Farina, or if you have someone else like say Baiju or something, or you're not really using Sunfire, I still think she's not a bad pull. She's still not bad because at the end of the day, you do need 8 characters for the Abyss, and you're going to need a healer at some point. So I think overall, she's still not horrendous, but I could understand people skipping her. Also, the thing with Jean, I will point out one of her crack constellations is her C4. Within field created by Dandelion Breeze, all opponents have their animal resistance decreased by 40%. So a lot of people really go for Jean constellations or just wish to get Jeans because this is a very, very crack constellation. But again, I don't think you should pick Jean just for the simple fact that you hope one day after you lose 50/50s, you get a bunch of Jeans, especially if you're free to play. If you're free to play, I think that's a waste. If you're a whale, it is what it is. But if you don't plan on whaling, I don't agree with that sentiment. So there's that. Tighnari is a bow dendro DPS character. Tighnari is very solid. He is not the best main DPS character. We have someone like Al-Haytham, Big Booba Al-Haytham, who definitely out DPSs him and can be used for more AoE stuff. Tighnari is more stuck on single target damage, which is not bad, and he's still pretty solid. Tighnari is really good for quicken teams, you know, so you run something like Tighnari, double Electro, double Dendro. So Tighnari, let's say you had Nahida. If you had Nahida, you could run the Dendro Traveler. Then you would run, you know, Fischl. You could even do Keqing. I mean, like, Yay Miko's honestly really up there with that, but Tighnari's very, very good for quick in reaction, and he's still a solid DPS. Again, it is not going to be the best DPS, and he's not really good with other Dendro things, like say, for example, Hyper Bloom or Burning. That is not where Tighnari excels. And again, he is more of a single target character due to the fact that he is a bow shot character who needs time to really charge up. So let me show you in a second. So Tighnari's skill allows him to get 3 shots pretty quickly, just off rip. So this is the normal charge time. If you don't have anything, you need to do the 2 charge ups, right? But if I do the skill, he throws this little AoE on the floor. Now I have instant charge ups, 1, 2, and then there's going to be a third one I get, 3. And then his burst is just a bunch of Dendro damage. And that is Tighnari's kit pretty much in a nutshell. So you would do this. You would then after that do your 3 charge attacks. If you have your burst, you do that, and then you would swap out to whoever else would be on field, whether it be Dehya, you know, I mean, whatever you want to put else on field with him is what works. But you saw how much of a big difference it is compared to the charges. So he's only mainly, you know, single target due to the fact that he is that bow character who needs that extra time to level up. If you are trying to fight multiple enemies, it just doesn't feel as good. So he's really good in that sense. Is he a good unit? Yes. With his Constellations, he does get stronger over time. But again, C0 functionality is still not bad, but only if you're trying to run those Dendro team comps with Electro. If you're not really into that, it's not worth it. Also, a lot of people find charge bow gameplay annoying and boring. I think it kind of brings a unique spin to it, but that's just me. And then the last one is going to be DIluc. Daddy DIluc, Batman himself. Look at this man. This is my first main, by the way. I got DIluc on my standard banner. Oh, Pelican Fly. DIluc is the most unit of all time. DIluc does not compare. So DIluc was a main pyro DPS. DIluc does not compare to Shanglang, doesn't compare to Linny, doesn't compare to Hu Tao. Like, unlike Dehya, who's a sub DPS, DIluc was supposed to be in that DPS category, but he got power crept pretty hard. And so DIluc is cool and he's fun, but he's really not that great. There's really only 2 uses with DIluc, and only one of them is common, and the other one is like super rare use. Let's go with the most common thing first. So before I go into those, let me show you DIluc's kit. DIluc is pretty simple. His skill gives him 3 pyro infused attacks. His burst is going to give him, you throw out a pelican that you saw earlier, Pelican Fly, and after that get more pyro infused attacks. The thing with him though is, unfortunately, it just doesn't do damage. So 1, and then I could attack again, 2, you know, and then there's the 3rd one, right? And then now it's on a cooldown. Now this is his burst. The problem with this burst is that it could just completely miss the enemy. They can run away, like whatever the case may be. Now I have these pyro infused attacks. So, and then you would kind of just go and attack them. So that's pretty much his kit. Unfortunately, he really just doesn't dish out a lot of damage. But the one saving grace, especially now, is that there is a character. This account doesn't have it, unfortunately. Their name is Shan Yun. They allow you to do plunging attacks with DIluc. So you would actually jump. You would do these plunging attacks, bam, and then you would consistently just do those over and over again with DIluc. You would do your burst, get your pyro infusion, and then plunge with him. His plunging multipliers, for some reason, are very high, and so that really works with him pretty decently. And most of the time, if you're seeing people use DIluc, they're doing a plunge with Shan Yun, Farina, and some other support, maybe Bandit, whatever the case may be, to squeeze damage out. Because his base kit is really not that good, and he just cannot pump out damage numbers. Like, for example, if I threw Yalan and Zincho here, the vaporized damage is not going to compare to any of these other people. It won't. It won't. It's just not that good. The other very rare occasion, which is nearly impossible, I've only seen 2 accounts with the C6 Kaya before, is if you have C6 Kaya and you are able to consistently just have his burst up all the time and attack with DIluc. It could put out big damage numbers, but that requires you having literally probably one of the most rare characters in the game, C6, although they are a 4-star. So DIluc's pull value to me is pretty minimal. If you don't like the plunge gameplay, if you don't have Shan Yun, so you don't plan on going for a 5-star, or you don't have this 4-star C6, I don't even believe it is worth it. He is just too limiting, unfortunately. Again, at the end of the day, if you need another 5-star to 2 5-stars to make you viable, or a C6 4-star that is never on reruns and only from standard, you are not worth it, unfortunately, because he is a cutie patootie. But so overall, I think D is a safe pick. I think Tighnari is an okay pick, and I think Jean is a good pick. Those would be the 3 that I would pick out of them. The rest of them, we're all looking at these. I'm going for Dehya. The picks that I think are good is Dehya is good. I think Jean is good, and I think Tighnari is a safe pick, and Keqing is a okay pick. Everything else I wouldn't bother with. Mona or QiQi, they're just not good. DIluc I wouldn't bother with either. And yeah, that is the standard banner character. So that is who you should be rolling for, or at least the information to let you decide. Again, if you are a whale and you want to set yourself up for a C2, a C4, a C5, C6, do it. But if you are not a whale and you're free to play, go with the C0 advice. I love you. Mwah. I'll see you in the next one. Just calling my name. So come on, baby, let's stop.